Are you in the market for a budget-friendly O-scale engine shed? Well, we might have the answer for you here today on Country Bunkers Train. What's up, guys? Welcome back. Hope you're doing well and having a good week. Several videos ago in our June 2023 update video, we debuted our new O-scale engine shed, engine house, offered by Process, whatever the hell they're called. Many of you showed a lot of interest in this new engine house, engine shed, and I figured today we'd check it out a little bit closer. Before we jump into the fun, one thing I want to preface or point out is my use of verbiage or terms, and that is this being a budget-friendly engine house. Although I believe this to be quite budget-friendly, I don't consider this to be a cheap piece. There are definitely cheaper alternatives out there on the market. The old MTH and Lionel engine houses, and I believe even Menards offered an engine house at one time. I don't believe Menards offered a 2-stall, only a 1-stall engine house, but regardless, there are cheaper alternatives out there compared to this particular engine house. But with that in mind, I still consider this particular Process engine house to be budget friendly. It offers a lot for its money. And I say this knowing that everybody has this on their mind at the moment, especially in these current times with rising prices and inflations going on at the moment. This offers a lot for the money. I'll give you guys a final cost or price breakdown later on in the video on what it took to get this particular structure here on the layout. But for now, let's check out this building or building kit in its entirety. As mentioned, this kit or engine house is offered by Process, which you can find on their website of process.com. Again, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. You can also find it where I found it on eBay, as well as other popular auction sites, as well as other popular O-scale suppliers. The reason I went with this particular kit is because I felt it was the best for our budget. It offered the most bang for your buck, and the way that it fit our layout. Now, I do believe this engine house is more geared towards European 2-rail O-scale, but it does fit our American 3-rail O-scale just fine. It fits right in. When you order the kit, this is the box you receive, which of course includes everything as well as the instructions. The instructions are very clear and straightforward. The only thing the instructions are lacking on a little bit, in my personal opinion, is the electronic or electrical hookup. They're not very clear on that, but it is pretty straightforward nonetheless. The kit itself, the building or main structure, is not built out of plastic as you might believe, but it is in fact actually this press board or fiber board. I was a little surprised by this, but I guess it makes sense for the price point. And I gotta say, I'm actually quite impressed with how well this stuff works out. It's very strong, accepts glue quite well. Very, very nice. Now, while the main bits and pieces are formed out of this press board or fiber board, whatever you'd like to call it, your window frames and side trim are made out of this cardboard material. It's basically cardboard with a protectant or sealant sprayed over the top. Your windows, of course, are this clear plastic. These windows come in a pretty standard style, almost standard printed sized piece of paper, 8x11, whatever it's called, and you got to cut them all out. You can see how they're etched, where you can cut them out to fit each frame and window opening. On top of that, you do have your roof window vents or window openings. These are more of a paper-like material, and then we've got more clear plastic inserts to install for the kit itself. Also included, it's kind of hard to show all off while it's already pre-assembled, but you get these plastic supports for the roof. You get these runners for lights to support them, as well as these computer board, I don't know what else to call them, but these runners for the exterior lights. It's basically computer chip board that runs along the walls that you can see here in white. They run along the walls and they have little LEDs that protrude for the exterior lighting. For the exterior, you do get these little light faucets or light covers, whatever you'd like to call them. But you get those installed over the LED lights that protrude onto the exterior. You do get all these legible signage that you can apply to the exterior as well as the interior of the building. Again, overall, a super nice kit, and as I believe, you get a lot for your money. I mean, what more can you ask for? These doors are operable. They do go up and down, as well as lighting that's included and signage. I think that's awesome. Here's a look at what you receive once you order this kit. Everything comes in the box. But again, everything is very simple and straightforward. And as mentioned with this kit, the majority of this kit is constructed out of this press board or fiber board. The operating garage doors or engine shed doors do come pre-assembled with their electronics and everything and wired up ready to go. You just got to add power. So once you get your building constructed and put together, this whole assembly drops right in. You slide the doors into the grooves and it's good to go. Now this is a kit, so we do have to assemble the majority of everything else. Things like the stairs we had to build, as well as the runways in between the tracks or sidewalks inside the building in between the tracks. But again, it's very, very simple and straightforward. One thing we do have to do, of course, which you don't have to do, is paint it. I obviously wanted to paint it, so that's what I did. I applied the paint separately to each piece before assembly. But again, very, very simple and very, very easy. Now, obviously, being a kit, there's going to have to be some work and finessing to get everything to fit. Besides the windows, the one thing I did have to work on and modify were the doors for the door openings. After we got paint applied and whatnot, I did have to file these doors down a little bit to fit within their openings. But again, not super hard, fairly easy, just a little time consuming. By far the hardest and most time-consuming task of building this kit were the windows themselves. As mentioned, the window glass comes in these printer-sized sheets of plastic, 8 by 11, whatever you call it. And as you can see on these sheets, they have lines etched in where you trim out each individual window. That takes a lot of time by itself. But these lines are a little thick, so windows would end up too big for each individual window opening. On top of that, you get these cardboard pieces with the knockouts for the window frames. Here's one right here. You can see we got all the frames knocked out and installed. What I did discover is the window frames, this cardboard material, almost fit perfect. Some of them were oversized. So what I would do when trimming the glass would trim it a very little bit shorter than the frame, but you got to be careful because there's not much room for error here. Not even 1/8 of an inch, more like a 1/16. So I'd try and trim it a little bit shorter than the actual window opening, and then apply the window frame and glue it all in place as one assembly. This worked quite well, but again, it's very, very time consuming and it takes a lot of effort to get all of these installed. You can see here I gave up on the windows of the interior. On my particular layout, you're never going to see these, and it's a lot of time and effort and energy trying to put these windows together. So I said to hell with it and didn't bother installing them here on the inside of the building. Again, you're never going to see this from the area that it's going to be sitting. Another spot that's not very detailed in the instructions is the wiring. So like I say, you have this whole assembly right here that drops in once the building is complete, but then you got to get it wired up. It's very straightforward and super simple unless you're reading too much into it. Down here you can see the pin where you input the main electrical connection from the control panel. Again, super simple. And then there's two red and black wires, a positive and negative, that run out. These feed power to all of your lighting throughout the building, both the interior as well as the exterior, which are placed on the walls or glued in place. Now, I didn't know this while putting the building together. I just saw two red and black wires hanging out there, and it's not really said in the instructions how to wire it up, so it took me a few minutes to figure it out. But you can see here we got it figured out. We got all of our wires run. I did have to drill this hole on the inside of the building to get these interior lights inside this door assembly to get power. But I got them all hooked up together here. Used solder and some shrink wrap. It's all working perfect. But again, it's not very well highlighted in the instructions. Just something to keep in mind. Another pointer I'd like to add, if I can, on the kit itself is this exterior trim. Both the exterior trim as well as the window frames are the same material, this cardboard material, and it comes with an adhesive backing to apply to the structure and windows themselves. I would highly, and I mean highly, recommend using some glue. At the very least, some basic Elmer's school glue to help stick to the structure. I did use glue on the windows, and I'm very thankful that I did because I've had no issues. But this building has been built now for, I don't know, 1 or 2 months, and I've noticed this adhesive that's on especially the exterior trim is not super strong, and after several weeks has let go. You can see it down here where it's a little loose and coming undone. And even just now, handling the building, I noticed this whole section up here had come loose and I just pressed it back into place. Yeah, I would highly recommend adding a little bit of glue to help secure it and keep it there for longevity. And since I mentioned glue, let's talk about that real quick. What kind of glue can you use to assemble this kit? Well, that's the beauty of it. With this press board or fiberboard, you can use practically any glue that you want. You can use your standard Gorilla wood glue, which will work perfect, but honestly, for me, I'm too impatient. I want this thing to go together real quick. So me personally, the majority of this kit is assembled with super glue, as well as a quick Insta-set to set it and get it in place. For a lot of the pieces, I did use just regular hot glue. I use this on the lighting and other various pieces here and there. For the windows themselves, as mentioned, I did use Elmer's school glue. This stuff dries clear. I didn't want to use super glue on the clear plastic inserts of the windows because, as we know, super glue has a tendency of fogging up plastic, and I didn't want that to happen here. Yeah, it did take a little bit longer to dry. However, since there's so many windows to install in this building, as you constructed one wall and got it ready for install, they were dry by the time they were ready to go and be installed in the building, if that makes sense. So mainly I stuck to super glue, hot glue, as well as Elmer's school glue, and it went together fairly quickly. With glue out of the way, let's discuss paint colors. There's many different variations you could paint this particular structure. Whatever color your heart desires, right? Now, for me personally, for the interior, the main color itself was this Rust-Oleum satin granite. That's what constructed or painted most of the walls. And then you can see we did the bottom edge in this bare navy blue or beyond navy. It's a flat paint. I think that turned out quite well. For masking everything off, just your typical 3M blue masking tape. Very simple and straightforward, but I'm quite happy with the results. Some accent colors we used on the interior was a Rust-Oleum satin black for the roof structural supports, as well as this multi-surfaced yellow paint. This was our safety yellow that we use throughout the edges of the trim or sidewalks inside the building, as well as the bottom of supports. I'm real happy with applying this yellow. I like how it turned out. You can see we even applied them to the stairways. Yeah, I think this looks great. For the exterior of the building, painting was a bit more intricate than the interior. We used a number of different products. Starting out, for the main brickwork of the structure itself, we use this Rust-Oleum red oxide primer. I like this stuff a lot. I use it quite a bit. For the doors by themselves, we use this, what's this called? Glidden multi-surface dark as night satin green. I'm real happy with how this turned out. It looks great for the doors. And then for the trim work, the cardboard trim work that gets applied, we use this Rust-Oleum multicolored textured paint. What is this? Desert Bisque. There it is right there. I think that turned out quite well. And then for the roof of the structure, we used the same color as the interior, this granite satin. Yeah, I really like how that turned out. Of course, as mentioned, we weathered that, which we'll get to here in a second. We also added our safety yellow to the bottom sides of the doors as they go up and down. Just a nice little touch to help it pop. Now, for weathering the building, we use this acrylic basics Mars black paint. I like this stuff a lot. I use it quite often. It makes for a really great black wash. And that was the first thing to go over the entirety of the building itself, both the roof and exterior. And then for adding extra detail, we use these cheap Walmart pastels. This is what added our rust-colored or rust effect on the roof, as well as adding some dark gray on the front to simulate smoke coming up from the engines, staining the front of the building. I'm very happy with how that turned out. I do think we went a little heavy with the rust up top on the roof, but we might dumb that down in the future with a little more of a black wash to help tone that down a bit. For powering this structure or building, as mentioned, here in the whole assembly for the doors and electronics, there is a plug-in, and they supply you with this cord that plugs directly into it and is fed by this little control panel that is supplied with the building. All you have to do is supply power to this little panel here, and this will light and control everything on the structure. Now, this is a little different for us O-gauge or O-scale guys, being that this strictly needs to be powered by DC power instead of AC power. But that's real easy to overcome. You can pick up, just as I did, one of these cheap old Tyco HO power packs. This is DC powered, and this is what I'll be using to power our building. And as you can see, it's doing a great job. Now, you can, of course, apply more and less power for brighter and less brighter lights. But yeah, pretty simple and straightforward. Hopefully you guys are able to pick up here in the video both the interior, I know you can see that, as well as exterior lighting. Just very well lit. It looks fantastic. And like I say, not only does this control the lighting, but it also powers up the doors to put them up and down. Now, I do have a bad or negative side for my particular structure. Unfortunately, my doors do not operate smoothly. And this is both a mix of operator as well as manufacturer error, because the little computer board or computer strip, whatever you'd like to call it, that holds these lights in place, there was a little bit too much solder on the joint that goes through, butting up against the wall. Well, when I was installing it, I was looking at it, and I thought to myself, maybe I should sand or grind this solder joint down so that board will sit a little more flush with the wall. But I didn't. I didn't know better, and I just went with it. And as I thought, it's protruding here in the middle where that solder joint is, and it's rubbing on the door. I don't know if you guys can see where it's scratching here on the door up against that board. So yeah, my doors don't operate as they should. But even still, this doesn't affect me that much. Being that this building isn't super long, I'm going to be parking my big steamers and articulateds, as well as joined diesels under this building. The doors will always be open, so I have no need to close them. But it would be nice, the child inside of me would like to play with these doors in the future. But when it's going to get installed, I won't be able to. That's the unfortunate bit. So I guess I would say this is a word of caution if you do buy one of these kits, to make sure you do the due diligence in grinding or sanding off the solder joints on the back of those electronic boards that power these lights. Just to give you a showing of what I'm talking about. Here's the control panel. Push the button up to bring the door up. But see how it's not going up, but if I press it in a little, now it wants to go up. And then it comes to a stop. Yeah, it'd be cool to be able to use that, but again, I'll have no real need in the future to use that because the engines that'll be parked in this thing will be too long to enable using it, if that makes any sense. So again, not any real skin off of my teeth, but it does bug me a little bit. And no, I'm not going to try and fix the door situation anytime in the future. As you can see from this front edge alone, I have everything in here secured and glued in place. I'm not going to try and risk damaging anything to try and pull all this out and try and rectify the situation. Because as I say, it's not really needed. This shed isn't super long, and with my big articulateds, they're going to be sticking out of the doors anyway. So I'm not overly worried about it, or not acceptable for what it is. And then we get to our last step, and that was detailing out the interior. Honestly, we really didn't need to deck out the inside of this thing because it's not going to be seen that much. Engines will always be parked in here, but I wanted to get this stuff installed so I knew it was here. And then for them few glimpses when there's not an engine in there, you'd be able to see some stuff. And it looks much better than just a bare, basic, empty building. And we had a lot of help with this. Our buddy Norm over at Norm's Trains, he sent me some of his 3D parts and pieces to install inside of this building. Some of his lathes, drill presses, shelving and tables, all kinds of great stuff. There's a cooler in there from him. I mean, I can't thank Norm enough. I'm beyond ecstatic to have this stuff here in my engine shed. Along with that, we installed some Woodland Scenics figures and some of their accessories, and I think this turned out excellent. Again, no, you might not see this stuff all the time or all that much, but knowing it's in there, yeah, it makes me feel better. The one thing or one figure you might see is the guy coming down the stairs here on the exterior of the building. But yeah, I think I'm beyond ecstatic. I think this is awesome. What do you guys think? So how much do we have all in on this engine house? I'm going to tally everything up as if you didn't have all the necessary equipment, tools, or products to build this house. Starting out with the house itself, I'll post a link in the description below. But I found this kit on eBay for $1.99 with free shipping. We'll call that $200. All the various glues I used to build this kit was $25 to $30. We'll call it $30. For the pastels that were used to weather this building, these were cheap ones from Walmart for $12. For figures to deck out the interior, we'll use the Woodland Scenics figures that we purchased at $25, not including the freebies we got from our buddy Norm. For powering this building, the power supply, you can pick up one of these cheap Tyco transformers for $12 to $15, so we'll call it $15. And then all in on paint, we were looking at $65. $55 for aerosol spray paints, and another $10 for the Mars Black acrylic and yellow safety paint. All in on this kit, we're looking at $347 and about 1 to 2 weeks of build time. What do you guys think? Personally, I think that's a good value. As I said at the beginning of this video, no, it's definitely not cheap, but I think we got a lot for our money, especially when you compare this kit to something like an Altoona Model Works kit. Those kits usually go for $1,000 to $1,500 by themselves, not including lighting or any of the small details or features that we have on our own personal kit here. But yeah, I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on that. Is that something that's palpable for you? Personally, I think it is. It's much better than a $1,500 engine shed from another company. Regardless though, I hope you enjoyed this video and look at our new engine house. Obviously we have a long ways to go. We still gotta install our concrete and various other accessories before we can move on. But this is where the engine house will be placed. I hope you enjoyed this video on the new engine house. If you did, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It would be much appreciated. As always, guys, until next time, my name is Zach, and this is Country Bunkers Trains. Y'all take care. I'll see you the next go-round.